So the next section on Files Manager is by yours truly. I won't keep that mug up there too long.
So every file that comes into the Operations Center shows up in this Files Manager. So whether it's been uploaded manually or if we've created a file such as a setup file or prescription, those files are all going to show up here under the Files Manager. So the first thing we need to talk about is how do we get data into the Operations Center so it shows up into this Files Manager. So one option is to use this Upload Files button. So this is particularly useful if you have a shapefile, maybe a boundary or a prescription that someone's given you, or a zip file that someone's given you. You can drag and drop those files here, or you can use this button to pull up a dialog of the computer and it'll allow you to choose the location that your data is in. The second and probably the most common way to upload data to the Operations Center is using JohnDeere Data Manager. So if you have a John Deere display or maybe another display that has documentation data on it, you can use JohnDeere Data Manager to upload it directly to the Operations Center. So in order to get to the JohnDeere Data Manager, we need to go to our Tools button here. And we'll scroll down until we get to our JohnDeere Data Manager link. And it's going to pull up a link where we can download the software. So once we've downloaded Data Manager, it stays on our desktop and we won't need to do it again. So once we've downloaded it, and we'll log into Data Manager, and then you'll have a couple different options to choose from here. So in this From box, you want to choose wherever your data is located at. So if you have a jump drive in the machine, it'll show up there, usually as like a D or an E drive. And then you can choose which organization to upload it to. So if you've got multiple organizations, they should all show up here. Most guys are only going to have one organization to upload to, but some guys will have two, maybe even three. So once we've selected those two parameters, we'll just hit Upload Data. The data that's available on that jump drive will show up in this window here, and you can select which data files you want to upload. If you want to pick and choose, you can uncheck and check the different files to upload, and you hit the Upload button, and a progress bar will appear and it'll let you know when it's finished uploading. So once the data is finished uploading, it'll show up here in the Files Manager. So as you can see, we've got some files here that start with Data Manager. So anything that comes through with Data Manager will look like this. Another way to get data into the Operations Center is to use wireless data transfer. So if you have a John Deere MTG or JD Link, and it's got a Connect subscription on it, and you've got it hooked up to your display, that data will flow wirelessly and automatically into the Operations Center. So we don't have to worry about using the upload files or the Data Manager. Everything just comes in nice and seamlessly. So what kinds of data can we upload to the Operations Center? Well, we can upload more than just John Deere. So if you don't have 100% John Deere displays on the farm, you can still use Operations Center for all of your operations. So here's a complete list of the different types of data and different types of displays that we can use to bring into Op Center. All right, so this main landing page is what you're going to see when you first open Files Manager. And what this is our available files list. So this is the files that we have that we can work with. So in this main screen, you'll see that we have some general information about the file, including the name, the status of it, client farm field, what type of file it is, how big it is, and when it was made. If we want to see even more detailed information about the file, we just click on the green name right here. And you can see that it'll bring up a content tab where if we have that information, it'll show up the client farm field and it'll show what equipment it was recorded with. You can also see the history of the file. So if this file has ever been processed or reprocessed or downloaded, that'll show up here in the history. So there's a couple different ways we can manage files over here. If we click on the checkbox next to a file, we see that we have some options up here at the top. And the first one is to download a file. So if you've created a setup file within Op Center, or maybe you've created a prescription, or you just want to share some raw data files with someone, you can click this download link and it'll download that information directly to your desktop. If you're partnered with another organization, such as your insurance agent or maybe your agronomist, you can go ahead and assign files to them so that they can see those fields as well. The reprocess button is used when maybe some data doesn't look quite right in a map, and sometimes reprocessing the data and making the system go through it again will make those maps look right. So if you have a JD-Link enabled machine with a Connect subscription, we can transfer information to the machine directly. So instead of going out to the machine with a USB to upload a prescription or to upload a setup file, we can just send that wirelessly and not have to worry about going out to the field and doing it manually. So if we've got a file that we don't want to appear in our searches and we don't, maybe we want to clean up our list a little bit, you can go ahead and archive it. And what happens when you archive it is it goes over to this archive tab. And the only things we can do with it here are we can delete it permanently, or we can make it available to work with again. So if you're not sure if you may need a file in the future, just archive it. If you know that you're not going to use that file ever, you can go ahead and delete it permanently, but just remember that we can never get that file back. Over here on the left-hand side, we can filter our data in a number of different ways. So one is just to use the search tool. So I can search for maybe the name of a field or a piece of equipment and find the files that way. Or I can sort by date created, maybe my client, farm, field, or what type of data it is. So if I want to just pick maybe just setup files to look for, I can do that in here, and that brings up a nice clean list of my different setup files that I have available. So as you can see, the data, some of the data that comes in is named in a certain structure. So we can change that structure. So originally that structure is machine name and a date stamp. So we don't find that that's very useful for sorting the data or for finding a piece of data. So we recommend changing that to a different option. So in order to do that, we'll just go up to our organization name, and we'll click on our little gear icon here. And then we'll go down to file naming. Click edit. And you can see we can change it to task name, farm name, field name, which is kind of what we recommend. Then you can search by harvesting or maybe search by seeding or application. Instead of trying to remember what machine it was used by or maybe what day it was, you can search for this, and just makes it a little easier to manage the data. So once you're done with that, click save. Go ahead and exit out. And that is a basic overview of all the things you can do in Files Manager.